Diolch am ymuno ni yng Nghanadledd Cenedlaethol Seren 2018. Ewch yn bellach. Thank you for joining us in the Seren National Conference 2018, Above and Beyond. Dyma sesiwn. This is session Rheoli amserlen UCAS, Managing the UCAS Timeline.
Hello, it's nice to meet you. My name is Anna. I work at the University of Bristol, and I'm here today to talk to you about managing the UCAS timeline. So this talk is going to give you a huge amount of information that I don't expect you to remember all of, but what I really hope is that about 15% of it is going to stick in your brains so that when it comes to you making decisions and understanding what's happening with UCAS, you can remember, I remember that really cool lady said this. Another thing that I'm gonna just get out of the way first and foremost is that I'm American. Seems to be people's most common question that they have for me. I'm from Seattle, it's in the Pacific Northwest. I've lived in England for 21 years and have been through the higher education process myself in the UK, and also have worked in higher education for more years than I'd like to admit now. So we're going to talk about UCAS and managing the UCAS timeline. So it's really important that you guys get an idea of what happens when, and it's going to start probably a lot sooner than you think. So in less than a year, on the 5th of September next year, UCAS is going to open. So UCAS is the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service. It's how you apply to undergraduate study for universities in the UK. It opens on the 5th of September. If you are planning on studying medicine, dentistry, or veterinary science, or veterinary surgery, anything that would make you a vet, or you're applying to the universities of Oxford or Cambridge, can I just check, does that apply to anybody? Is anybody either thinking of applying to Oxford or Cambridge or doing medicine or dentistry or something like that? A few of you, great. Your deadline is much earlier. It's the 15th of October of next year. You only get about 6 weeks between UCAS opening and closing for you. If you are sitting here not thinking of applying to Oxford or Cambridge and not wanting to do medicine or dentistry or veterinary science, then the good news is you get a little bit longer. You have until the 15th of January. The reason that that middle group is so much earlier is that for medicine and dentistry and a lot of vet courses, and also for Oxford and Cambridge, they tend to interview, not everyone who applies, but everyone needs to interview in order to progress to the next stage. So if you don't have an interview, then you are, would you mind just sitting a little bit further up that way? Sorry, I'll just step on your feet. Thanks. You'll have an interview. Chances are, if you're not interested in studying those things or doing anything at Oxford or Cambridge, you won't have an interview. The only exception to that is if you're doing something that would require an audition. So something like music or theater studies, where you need to audition as part of your application process. Alongside and far before this, though, you have other things that you need to be doing. So you need to be visiting universities. It would be remiss of you to make any major decisions about where you're going to spend maybe 3 or 4 years of your life without even going to see the place that you want to go to. Has anybody already been to an open day? Oh, that's great. No pressure for the people who haven't, but that is very good, very forward thinking. University open days tend to happen in late spring, early summer, so in May, June time, and then like September, October time. Over August, you won't see much, but you'll need to register to attend those open days. Open days are hectic. You will have like a 45-minute talk on your subject, a 45-minute talk on accommodation, a 45-minute tour, a 45-minute visit into accommodation, a 30-minute talk on admissions, a 30-minute talk on student finance. It's hectic. You could do a lot of stuff in one day. They're very busy. At Bristol, we got like 25,000 people in a day come to our campus. That's a lot. They're very, very rushed. So I would encourage you to go back and visit a university, not on an open day, just on a normal day of university. Most universities are open campuses that you can just go and walk around on. If you're planning on going past one anyway, I encourage you to just go and walk around. They don't have their all shining, all singing, all dancing opportunities for you like they do on an open day, and you won't be able to go into as many buildings or anything like that. But you can pick up the vibe for the place. You'll be able to get a bit of an idea about, do the students seem happy there? Does it seem welcoming to you? Does it seem like somewhere you'd want to go and spend a lot of time and money attending? Then you'll need to make a long list of the subjects and institutions that you're wanting to study. Does anybody here think that they already know what subject that they want to study at university? I promise not to pick on you if you put your hand up. A couple of you? Cool. It's absolutely fine if you do, and it's absolutely fine if you don't. It's not something you need to know yet, because you need to do research. Part of this research is going to be understanding that universities call things differently. Universities just have different names for things. So for example, at one university, if you're interested in studying sociology and you do an A-level sociology and you want to study sociology, you may not know that universities might call something like sociology social policy, social anthropology, social histories. They might just have slightly different names for things. Similarly, subjects in the sciences have slightly different names. You can do chemistry, or you can do physics, or you can do chemical physics, or you can do biochemistry, or you can do geophysics. There's lots of different combinations of things that are their own subject at university level, but they haven't been a subject that you've studied before or that you've been aware of before. So it's up to you to start looking at what kind of family of subjects you might be interested in studying. We'll talk a little bit about how you can make those choices in a second. But one really good resource for you is on the UCAS webpage. You can go and search by like subject rather than having to type in a specific name of something. So if you look up, say, history, you'll see things called historical studies, different ways of phrasing it that the search function isn't quite smart enough to pick up on. So go start thinking, like, if you think, I know that I want to study drama at university, go look at drama and see that some places it'll be called theater studies, some places it'll be called something slightly different. So make sure that you're getting the full picture of the courses available to you. And then you're going to need to shortlist, pick a subject or subjects, and pick the universities that you want to apply to far before these deadlines. There are over 37,000 different undergraduate courses in the UK at over 370 different providers. This is a huge number. I do not have an encyclopedic knowledge of it. You will not have an encyclopedic knowledge of it. There's a huge amount of choice, and that choice is for you to make. When you're thinking about what subject you want to study, especially, there's a lot of people in your life who are going to have opinions on what you should study. I'm thinking specifically like parents, aunts and uncles, teachers, adults in your life may pressure you to study a specific subject. At the end of the day, it's your time, it's where you're going to live and study, and it's the qualification that you're going to end up with, not them. So make sure that you're making a decision based on what you want. The way that you can kind of filter down universities, people use a lot of different methods. It might be by location. You might just be dead set on going to university in London and only applying to universities in London. Or you might only want to go to a university that's in the Russell group, a research-intensive university, or that's in a certain area of the league table, or you might want to study a subject that isn't even offered by that many universities in the first place, so it cuts down a lot about what your options are there. But you need to start filtering through and just seeing what universities run the kind of courses you want. How do those universities rank, if that's something that's important to you? How do they compare to each other? So, in terms of making up your mind about your UCAS application, you need to think really hard about what you enjoy doing day to day. Not only what subject you want to study, but how you want to learn that subject. There are some university courses that'll be like 8 hours a week of contact time, and you're expected to do 30 hours a week outside that contact time of your own research. You have to be really honest with yourself about whether you're going to be able to do that or not. whether you think that you will genuinely be able to give that much time to your studies, or if you'd like something a little bit more structured. If you'd like something, for example, that has more practical element to it, a science that has lab work, where you go in and you do your lab and then you're done. You just have to do some write-up after. There's not lots and lots of time in the library researching things independently. You need to think about your future career plans, especially any special accreditation that you would need. There are some careers where you need accreditation in that subject to practice. So there are some that we all know, like to be a doctor, you need to have a medicine degree. To be a nurse, you need to have a nursing degree. But things like in England, or sorry Wales, in the UK, to be an engineer, you need to have an accredited degree in engineering. To be a lawyer, you need to have an accredited degree in law. To be a psychologist, you need a degree that is accredited by the British Psychological Society. So you need to look up and see if you have a career in mind, see if that requires specific university. If you want to go into human resources, then you probably want to get one that's chartered by something called the CIPD. If you want to go into marketing, the Chartered Institute of Marketers is something that will probably help you. If you have no idea what you want to do after university, that's a-okay too. Even if you get halfway through your degree and then you decide I want to do law or I want to be a psychologist, then you can always do courses afterwards, these kind of top-up courses, but they just are another chunk of time and money for you. If you're dead set, I know I want to be a lawyer, you're going to have to do a law degree that is going to enable you to be a lawyer. Again, visit UCAS for advice. There's a huge amount of resource on the website, and they have videos and lots of interesting stuff. And finally, if you pick something that you're good at and that you enjoy, you're just more likely to succeed on it. You're more likely to get a good grade and to stay on that course. And that's something you need to think about too. You're funneling down to studying maybe 1 or 2 subjects for a period of 3, 4, 5 years. You need to make sure that that's something that you're going to stay passionate about after 2.5 years to make sure that you finish it out. And then some things about your course and university to also consider. So do you want to do a single or a joint honors? So some universities let you do 2 subjects at the same time. And it just depends on a huge number of things. You can still do joint courses that are accredited. So for example, you could do like law and French and still get an accredited law degree and get to keep studying French. Or lots of different combinations of things. You could do, psychology and sociology, or combined things in any way. So look, if you really can't choose between 2 subjects, see if you could do them both. Think about the entry requirements. Are they realistic? The entry requirements will reflect the rigor of the course. So if you, as you all are, very high-attaining students, you're going to want to go for things that have equally high entry requirements so that you're challenged on your course, so that you can do very well on your course, so that you can meet peers who have similar kind of background to you and have intellectually challenging conversations with them as well. You might want to think about the reputation of the course as well. Unfortunately, in some industries, the reputation of the university and the course that you study are quite important. So for example, I hate to say it, but law is one of those that is just kind of stuck in thinking that only certain universities have good law degrees, and in order to progress, you need a degree from a certain university. So if you have a career in mind, think about the reputation of the course you're doing. The reputation of your course does not always match the reputation of the university either. I used to work at the University of Warwick, and the University of Warwick had the best maths degree in the UK. Better than Oxford, better than Cambridge. The best maths was at Warwick. Now, if you think going to the best place for maths is very important, then Warwick would be a good one for you. But if you think that going to somebody where the overall reputation of the university is more important, then maybe you're more tempted by something like Oxford or Cambridge. You need to think about what's important to you and make that decision for yourself. Think about the teaching style and assessment methods. There are some university courses, if you hate coursework, there are university courses that are 100% examined. Or if you hate exams, there are university courses that are 100% coursework. Most of them are a mixture of the two. but think about what you're good at and what you assess well at, and have that be part of your decision making as well. There are sandwich courses. I always tell a joke here about how it's not a degree in Subway. Thank you, that was very pitiful. Sandwich courses are where you do maybe what would be a 3-year degree, but it actually takes 4 years, and in the 3rd year, you have a year of working in industry on a relevant placement. These are really common for like very practical degrees, so things like events management, for example. It's quite common that you'd go spend a year working in events, but it's also for things like physics. Lots of language courses will require you to spend a year working in a country with your language. And think about if you want that, if you want a year of professional experience alongside your degree as well. And finally, think about the employability. So for me, ideologically, education's about a lot more than just the job you get at the end of it. It's about the journey you go on, the knowledge you develop, and what you contribute back into the community. For a lot of people, it's a financial calculation about if I do this course or if I study at this university, at the end, I will earn this much more money than if I didn't. Especially women. It just got showed, ladies, that women with degrees earn like so significantly more than women without degrees. For men, it's more, but it's like 20% more, but for women, it's like 75% more that you'll earn with a degree than without a degree. So if earnings are really important to you, there's a website you can visit that's an independent website. So it's nothing to do with the University of Bristol or anything. It's called Unistats, UNISTATS. And Unistats allows you to enter information, to enter basically courses. So you could say, I want to compare economics at Bournemouth and economics at Birmingham. And one of the tabs that it compares are things like graduate earnings, 6 months after you finish that course. So how much more will you earn? What's the highest earning university for the course you want to study? It also tells you things like how many students are in full-time education or full-time study 6 months after they finish. So how likely are you to get a job after you finish that? But it also, and I think in some cases more importantly, there's another tab you can do where it tells you things like how many students drop out of this course. So how likely are you to stick with this course? How satisfied are students with this course? Do they like it? Is the teaching good? And other things that you can find out that you can kind of infer about your well-being when you're at university. Will you start on a cohort of 100 people and end up 20 of you that finish your course? Or will you start with 195 of you will finish? That website publishes all these statistics, and you can compare courses at different universities or different courses at the same university to see. So it's a very valuable resource for you. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about the kind of decision-making process or where to research universities and courses or anything? Okay. So now I'm going to talk about actual UCAS. When you apply to universities, they get 5 pieces of information about you. They get your personal details, so we got like your name and your address and your phone number and your date of birth and what school you go to. We get your education and qualifications, so we get to see like what GCSEs did you get, what ASs did you get, and what are you predicted to get for your A-levels. We get to see your employment history, but to be really honest, guys, like put in if you've been working or volunteering, but it's not going to have a huge impact on your application. Your personal statement, which I'm actually not going to talk very much about, because personal statements are something you get a lot of support with anyway as you go through and apply through UCAS. There's huge amounts of information on the internet about it, lots of YouTube videos you can watch about personal statements. But also because universities are kind of moving away from using personal statements, to be perfectly frank with you. Lots of people find that kind of like scary or upsetting, like, but how will they know how passionate I am about my subject? The fact of the matter is, personal statements are easy to learn how to write well. And we've found that that does not translate into students performing well. And if you have time and money and tutoring, you can write a really, really awesome personal statement. And if you don't have those things, you may well perform better at university than someone who did, but we don't get to see that. So at the University of Bristol, we say really clearly in our admission statements whether or not we read your personal statements. And for now, a lot of our courses, we don't. We instead use other information that we have about you because we want it to be more fair than giving some people the opportunity to write a really beautiful essay and other people get not a lot of time, not a lot of energy to do that. We also get a teacher reference from your teacher or your head of sixth form, or somebody will write a reference for you. At the University of Bristol and at many other universities, we will use information received in your personal details when considering you as an applicant. And now that may sound, again, a little bit scary, but that's not what I mean. We're not going to be like, oh my gosh, they live on this street. No way, we don't like people from that street at all. What it instead means is we use, and other universities are starting to use very much as well, contextual offers. We found that students who come in with contextual offers do just as well, if not better, than students who come in on normal offers. A contextual offer is normally a grade reduction of 2 grades from an offer. So if you have to get AAA normally, if you meet certain criteria, you can get ABB. Those criteria for us are if you live in a postcode where people are unlikely to go to university, if you attend one of the lower performing schools in the UK, or if you've ever spent 3 months or more in local authority care. We found that students that we have come in on these reduced offers do just as well, if not better, than their peers who come in on the normal offers. And we don't think that where you live or what school you go to should absolutely decide your future. The UCAS application that you send is likely to be your only interaction with the university that you're applying to. They won't remember you from the open day. They won't read the email when they're considering your admissions that you sent 6 months before asking a question about something. This is the only time that they're going to make a decision on your application. Again, unless you're studying something where you require an interview or an audition. That's a different story. But that means that this is something, I find it quite relieving because you're not judged on anything other than this. You get to have clean slate, tabula rasa. That's all we consider about you. When you apply to university through UCAS, you make 5 choices. That can be the same course at different universities, all different courses at the same university, or any combination of the two. Of those 5 choices, no one can see where else you've applied. So Bristol couldn't see that you've also applied to Southampton or anything like that. Some people incorrectly think that if you apply before the 15th of October deadline, the Oxbridge deadline, that then we're going to infer from that you're applying to Oxford, which may give you either advantage or disadvantage your application or something like that. Absolutely false. To be perfectly frank, we don't have the time to consider those sorts of things when we're looking at your application. We consider those 5 pieces of information that I showed you before, and that's it. The 15th of January, or the 15th of October if you're applying to Oxford, Cambridge, Medicine, Dentistry, or Veterinary Sciences, but for most people, the 15th of January, is the deadline for what's called equal and fair consideration. That is legally binding to the university to fairly consider every application we receive up to that point. Whether we receive it at 9 o'clock on the 5th of September, as soon as UCAS opens, or at 11:59 p.m. on the 15th of January, right before it shuts, we have to consider all of those equally and fairly. There's no distinct advantage to applying really early. If you want to, if you're like, I want to get this out the way, I want to be able to focus on other things, totally up to you, but there's no advantage or disadvantage as long as you get it in within the deadline. Your school will have much, much earlier deadlines for you to get UCAS stuff done. Trust them, they've done it a lot. They know the process very well. Your deadline is the 15th of January, but they need to submit their teacher references. They need to verify your predicted grades and so on. In about April of year 13, you will also fill in a student finance form. Some people get a bit worried that that's going to be sent to everyone that you've applied to, but that's not the case. That student finance form only ends up at the university that you end up at. And universities do what's called needs blind applications. So lots of universities have things like bursaries and grants, free money, for students who have household income below a certain amount. We don't have a certain number of those that then we don't let in any more people who would get the bursary or anything like that. We just find the money if we need to have more people than we expected would be able to access that bursary. So it's nothing that's going to actively disadvantage you. And in fact, things like bursaries and like accommodation support and any other kind of support that's available, like I very much encourage you to take up. It is the only time in your life when people are just going to give you vast sums of free money. So just take it and enjoy it and use it very wisely. So you will get some people, some universities responding to you very quickly within your application time. So maybe as soon as you've applied, within a week, you might get one person, one university say, yes, we love you, we want to make you an offer. That's very exciting. I would warn you against getting too emotionally attached to that university because they were the first one. It's very normal human behavior to be like, they want me, this is amazing, they've said that I'm number one person that they want, and they've made me an offer so quickly, I'm just going to accept it and reject everybody else and just say, this is it, this is it. Universities have very different admissions processes. So when I worked at Warwick, they used to not make any offers until after the 15th of January. And then it can take a few months to sort through all the applications received. So then you're like, it can be March before you start hearing back, April before you start hearing back. What you need to know is that you need to trust that the system is working. Your application has been received. And universities have to respond to your application. Now, when universities respond to your application, they'll say one of two things. This is where we get a bit sad. They might say, yes, we love you and we want you to study at our university. We think you're the best thing ever. Great. So they make you an offer. That'll most likely be a conditional offer. So it'll be conditional upon you achieving certain A-level grades. That offer is non-revocable unless you do like a terrible crime, but I'm really hoping that nobody here does a terrible, terrible crime that would get their offer revoked. It's like murder level, like really, really bad. So if you apply to study physics at Sussex, and they come back and they say, if you get 3 A's, you can study physics with us, and then you say yes, and then you get your 3 A's, at no point can they go, oh no, actually, no, we didn't mean that. I take that back. There's no takesies, backsies in university admissions. Once we make an offer, we have to stand by that offer. The other thing, though, that can happen is that when you apply to universities, sometimes, brace yourself, they might not say yes. This is devastating. I myself had this. I had 6 AS levels at grade A, right? I applied to my universities. One university, not even Oxford or Cambridge, rejected me. Okay. I'm not hung up about it. It was a long time ago. I'm fine now. But they rejected me. When I thought about it, in my personal statement, I'd actually written it really specifically for the university that I wanted to go to and the university I ended up going to, saying I wanted to study somewhere really modern and new and forward-thinking, and I wanted to specialize in gender studies. I was really interested in feminist theory, and this university, I hadn't done that much research. I just put them on because they were a name I recognized. They sounded like a good university, a very old university, and one that did not have any gender studies in it. They probably read my personal statement, and they were like, you'd have a terrible time if you came here. You wouldn't get anything that you wanted out of university. So they said, no, you're not going to get an offer. I'm not mad. As I said, it's fine. It's fine. But universities cannot make offers to all the students that they get. And when we receive applications and have to say no to certain students, like, it is sad and we know it has an impact, but it is just something that we have to do to make sure that we have enough spaces for all the students that apply. So it will be devastating. Hopefully you won't hold a lifelong grudge like I have and a long vendetta against that institution that I refuse to ever work at or visit. They're fine. They're fine. It's fine. I'm okay with it. But they said no to me. So when you hear back, you're either going to hear one of two things. You're either going to hear yes or no. And then universities will probably invite you to something called like a post-offer visit day or a post-offer holder open day or something like this. So remember I said earlier, open days are like hectic, blah, 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 and it's all in a day and it's really busy and it's really squishy and you don't get to see that much and you do a lot of little things. Post-offer visit days are like an afternoon that you spend just in your academic department where you get to actually find out what the course is like, meet the people who will be teaching you, and so on and so forth. For that, it can be a lot, really, it gives you a much bigger insight into what that university is like. If you have any financial difficulties, say you've applied and you have a post-offer visit day that you've been invited to, but it's at Aberdeen and it's really far away, a lot of universities will have like bursaries available to help you with travel and transport if you want. So please, if you get invited to them, but they're so far away or you can't afford to get there, then do contact the university because they may be able to help you get your travel sorted. And I recommend you go to all those. As you can see, you don't have to make any decisions until you've heard back from your last institution. And then you normally get about a month to make your decisions. Your decisions look like this. So you get 5 choices. Let's say one of them doesn't want to offer you a place, which is fine. It's totally cool. So then you have 4 people who have said yes. Of those 4, you pick one to be your firm choice. So that's your yes, I love you, let's do this, I want to spend 3 years with you, boom, that's your choice. And then you have an insurance choice. So that's one that's your backup. That's like, I'm cool with you. And if things don't work out well with my firm, then this is where I'll go. Your insurance choice is only for when you do not meet the terms of your firm choice. So if your firm choice grade requirements are 3As, there is no point having an insurance choice where the grade requirements are 3As. Because if you don't get into the first one, then you definitely won't get into the second one either. So your insurance choice should be slightly lower grade requirements so that you have a bit more flexibility. Please make sure that your insurance choice is somewhere you would be happy to go to. Lots of people think like, oh, this garbage choice, my terrible second choice, I don't even want to go there. I hate it so much. It's just for like, if I ruin my whole life, then I guess I'll have to go there. Please don't think of it that way. Make it somewhere that you'd be happy, just as happy to go to as your firm choice. Okie doke. So I know what you're thinking, the pessimists amongst you, but what if I don't receive any offers? Which does happen. Most people won't get 5 offers, I'll say first and foremost. Most people won't get all 5 people coming back and giving them an offer of study. So if you don't receive any offers, there's an additional section of UCAS that you only have access to if you don't have any offers, called UCAS Extra, which will open for you. And basically, any universities that didn't get as many applications as they thought they would, or any courses, they match that up. So they say, oh, you can still apply for this and this and this. UCAS Extra has courses from Russell Group universities in it. Top 5 universities go into UCAS Extra because there are just some courses that they never quite get enough applications for. So it's not the end of the world. Clearing, which we'll talk about a bit later, mostly relates to when people think about the word clearing, it relates to A-level results day, but actually it opens before that in July. And it's an opportunity for people to apply for courses where people haven't met their requirements for it or there are still spaces on it early as well. And finally, don't panic. We're going to talk through now how we're going to make our plan to be really effective and impactful by the 13th of August, 2020. So that's A-level results day. That's when you're going to find out what your A-levels are. It might be a bit early now, but next summer, if you get a job, you need to book this day off. You cannot be at work on the 13th of August because you need to be prepared for what might happen. Things happen very, very quickly on A-level results day, and it all kicks off at 8 o'clock in the morning. Because things happen quickly and early, I would urge you, if you have any bad influence friends who say, do you want to go out on the 12th? It's the last day before we'll know what will happen. It's our last opportunity before we know what the future holds to go and party. We'll just go to the pub for one, and then you have a few at the pub, then you go to another pub, then you go to a club, then you go out for chicken and chips, and then you go over to somebody's house and you're up until like 5 o'clock in the morning. You fall asleep, you wake up at 11. You're too late. Too late. You tell that friend, no, I have a responsibility to Anna. I made a promise years ago that I would be ready for A-level results day, because it's the students who are ready and have a plan that get the best and the most out of this. Remember, as you do when you get any kind of exam results, on A-level results day, you may have done phenomenally well. Your friend may have done not that phenomenally well. So remember, it's your responsibility as well to try to be kind about it and not scream and shout, I got 3 stars, I'm the smartest person in the world, nobody can hold me back, my life's going great, because somebody else might have not gotten into their firm choice or their insurance choice, and they might be going through a hard time at the moment. Okay, so we're going to talk about our plan. So, confirmation. So this is A-level results day. University talk, we call it confirmation. If you exceed the terms of your firm choice, so your firm choice, your first choice, if you get better than the requirements for that, so let's say that the requirements are 3 A's and you get an A star and 2 A's, or the requirements are ABB and you get AAB. If you get better than that, you are eligible for something called adjustment. Honestly, students never have heard of adjustment. A lot of teachers and sixth form staff have never heard of adjustment. So this is why I'm really going to hammer home adjustment to you guys. Please go tell all your friends. This means that you can upgrade to a better course or university that has higher requirements. Clearing is where lots of people will advertise their courses. Adjustment, sometimes Oxford and Cambridge will have courses available in adjustment. It's for where they cannot fill their courses with the students who had applied. About 3 years ago, in 2015, there was the English Literature A-level. Nobody quite knows what happened, but there was a huge dip in the English Literature A-level. So nationally, on a national scale, I don't know if the paper was too hard or the mark scheme didn't match up with it or what, but everybody did about 1 grade below what they were predicted to get. And there were far fewer A's and A stars in English A-level. As we said, we don't know why that happened, but we do know that that meant that we had a lot more spaces on courses than we thought we were going to have. So then more spaces are available in clearing and adjustment. Adjustment is only for if you exceed the terms of your offer. If you meet the terms of your firm offer, if you had to get 3 A's and you did it, you got 3 A's, congratulations. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, so don't go to the pub yet, but later celebrate, enjoy, relax, you did it. You can just exhale finally. You're great, you're in. Sometimes universities, if you didn't meet the terms of the offer, but you were very close, say you got AAB rather than the 3 A's you needed, universities might still offer you a place. So when the English A-level results all dipped very dramatically, very few people could have met the requirements for the English literature courses that require you to get an A or an A star in English literature. And therefore, universities made the decision individually, as institutions, made the decision to let people who dipped on the English literature to still be offered a place. So there's a chance that you might still be offered a place regardless. Or some universities might offer you a different course if you've just missed your grades for the course you signed up for. Say you signed up and your firm choice was for politics and economics, and you needed to get 3 A's, but you got 2 A's and a B. The university that you put as your firm choice might say, we actually have spaces on just straight politics. Do you want one? And then you can decide what you're willing to compromise. And that's what this day is going to be a lot about for you, is compromise. So you're going to need to decide if you want to compromise the university you go to, or the course you study, or the type of institution you study, and what you're willing to compromise and what you're not willing to compromise. It's not, on A-level results day, time to just call the university you got into to ask them about accommodation or reading lists, or even though it says on your UCAS page that you've been accepted and you got an email from the university and you got the grades to meet your offer and you got them pack and then post as well, welcoming you to that university, but you just really want to hear it from somebody on the other side of the phone to confirm that you have a place at that university. Today is not the day. You've had all the confirmation that you need for that. Also, if you were unsuccessful in getting your place, but you were only maybe 2 marks off the grade that you were hoping to get, there's no point in calling the university and letting them know. Unfortunately, the decisions that they make are pretty final. So unless you get that paper remarked and then do end up with that grade, which is a different story, there's no point calling and arguing. As I said, the most important thing is timing on this day, and you will be wasting your time if you do that. Okay, then you'll have your adjustment. So again, what's adjustment? It's when you exceed the terms of your offer. Tell 5 friends, ask them to tell 5 friends. Soon everybody will know. No vacancy list is published for adjustment. Often people won't put it on their websites. You just need to call and ask. Therefore, part 1 of your plan for the 13th of August 2020 needs to be, if things go so much better than I expected, if I'm predicted 2 A's and a B, but I get 2 A stars and an A, 1, would I just want to keep my course? Would I just want to keep my firm choice at the university I'm going to because I really love it and I'm really dedicated to it and that's where I want to go, so it doesn't matter if I do better, I just want to stay there? Or 2, who am I going to call? If you decide to adjust, you get literally the university that you adjust to, so the one that you kind of go up to, goes in and picks you out of UCAS, takes you out of your place. You need to be sure when you're on the phone to them that you're wanting this to happen. Oftentimes, you get a period of time in which to make a decision for clearing or adjustment, and you can go and visit the university. If it's one you've never been to before, you could go and visit the university in that time. If you did not get into your firm choice, but you did get into your insurance choice, like, congratulations, you still have a place. It's suddenly not this garbage, terrible university, but somewhere that you might go spend 3 years, 4 years of your life. It's really important that you make sure that your insurance choice is somewhere where you could go, because it's very feasible that you're going to end up there. If you decide that no matter what, I don't want to go to my insurance choice, I hate it, I don't want to go there, it's too far away, or whatever reason you have, it's not an automatic thing where they just release you and then you can go find a place in clearing. It's actually a really complicated process that for some universities it can take up to 24 hours to release you into clearing. So you can't get another place for 24 hours. To give you an idea of how important timing is, I used to manage the University of Warwick's clearing hotline. And 1 year we had 8 places available for law. Unheard of. Law is normally totally full, never have any spaces available. But something happened to the exams that year. People didn't do as well as they were going to do. We had 8 spots available. Our phone lines opened at 8 o'clock, and by 8:04, those spaces had gone. So if you waited 15 minutes, you couldn't get your space. If you were out the night before, didn't get up until 10 o'clock, bad luck. Often there are very finite, very small numbers of spaces available. So make sure that you have a plan. Make sure the way to avoid this is to have an insurance choice that you'd be happy with. But unfortunately, a lot of people just start to weirdly resent their insurance choice and end up not wanting to go there. Okay. Finally, I'm going to talk to you about clearing. Clearing is a very specific thing that happens on the 13th of August. It opens a bit before for people with no places as well. So clearing is if you don't get in, like very sad, if you don't get into your firm or your insurance choice, you are automatically put into clearing. Basically, universities will have a certain number of students that they need on a course, and they try to offer in the right combinations to get that many students on their course, but it is a very much guesswork and not at all an exact science. So you end up with not enough students who have achieved the grade for the course. So then you have these spaces you need to fill. And that's filled by students who haven't gotten into anywhere else. And then basically it becomes a matching service. So timing, as I've said, is everything. Phone lines open at 8 a.m. The places will go. That's not up for debate. That's not like a maybe. Places do get full. Universities will have slightly different processes for what you need to do. If you do end up in clearing, you'll need to call. Some will say you need to call and then fill out this form. Some will say you need to call and then send us an email. Trust their processes. They'll all be slightly different because this is something that institutions run independently. But know that a lot of people get a space through clearing that actually they love. So it's not the be-all and end-all if you do end up having to go through clearing. As I've said, bear in mind what you'd be willing to compromise on. Are you willing to compromise on where you go? Are you willing to compromise on the subject you want to study? I would urge you from not making any incredibly rash decisions. So if you signed up to do chemistry and your firm and insurance choice were for chemistry and you wanted to do chemistry but couldn't find anywhere on A-level results day, don't just suddenly take a theater studies degree. Take time to think about it. In clearing, you can gather as many offers as you want, and then you pick the one you want out of that. So get as many offers as you can, but take your time. Know, if I actually don't get the grades to do maths at university at all, would I do physics? Have that kind of, if this all goes wrong, what else would I be willing to do? If you're not willing to compromise on it, that's fine. When your teachers make your A-level predictions, only 16% of those are correct. That means 84% of the 3 A-level grade predictions are incorrect. So this is why we have this service. It's really like looking into a crystal ball. You've got more chance of just flipping a coin and guessing what somebody's going to get than by looking at the work they've done. A-levels are hard, and they're hard to predict. You're lucky, you're very lucky in that in Wales, you still get to do your AS and know what 50% of your grade is going into year 13. In England now, they all have linear A-levels. They don't have any assessment until the end of year 13. So it's just a wild guess as to how they're going to do. Odds are very statistically significant that your A-level predictions are going to be wrong. So bear that in mind when you're thinking of your backup plan. Your academic ability is not the only sign of who you are as a person. It doesn't define who you are. If you didn't get the grades you thought you were going to get, don't let it be like this huge, terrifying, internal kind of struggle that you have. But I've always been smart and I didn't get the grades I thought I was going to get. Who am I now? Save that for another time. Focus on what you're going to do. This is why having a backup plan is going to put you in a better stead. Because if you open that envelope and you start crying and having an existential crisis, you're not able to focus on what you need to get done. In fact, you're just going to be a blubbering mess with nothing to do. But if you're like, okay, that wasn't what I expected, but I know that if I wanted to do psychology at Bournemouth, actually, these grades could get me into psychology at Bournemouth, so let's call them and see if I can get a place. If you really can't find a course or an institution that you want to go to, then it's okay to take a gap year and apply again. You can take that gap year to resit some exam papers. You can take that gap year to travel, to work, to earn some money. Most universities don't mind at all if you've had a gap year. So just bear that in mind if things don't go to plan. Be like, actually, none of these seem right for me. I think I can do better on my chemistry paper. I'm going to resit it. The universities that maybe you applied to when your 5 choices of UCAS, that maybe you declined them or they rejected you first time around, it doesn't matter. In clearing, the vast majority of universities We don't read your personal statements. We don't have an interview with you about your suitability for the course. What happens is you ring a number and you say, these are my A-level grades and I want to study this. Do you have any places? And they'll go, yeah, we do. Do you want one? And you'll go, yep. And then you have it. You'll get made a legally binding verbal offer in most cases where you just get a space. It happens very quickly. And that's why you need to know, who am I going to call first? What would be my number one choice if everything goes wrong? What would be my number one choice with any of the grades that I think I could reasonably get? People used to think clearing has a really bad rep, especially among like slightly older generations, because when it first came into play, it was mostly like bad, however you define that. Universities, like they drop the grades so much, you only need 2 U's to go, blah, blah, blah. Universities, A, do not drop their grades that much in clearing, and B, Russell Group universities are in clearing. Top 10 universities are in clearing. Like very competitive universities go into clearing. We cannot run a course without the number of students on that course, and we're not going to not run a degree. So we need to fill those places. So don't be ashamed or upset about having to use clearing. If anything, you're more competitive in clearing once you have your grades and you know that that university needs to fill their spaces on that course. Okie doke. It's my final slide. This is what you guys need to be doing in order. And in order for you to be able to achieve the best that you can and plan ahead for next year. You need to start researching universities now. Like you can, honestly, you can go on their websites. Remember that universities are all, I'm sure you saw it upstairs, all different universities are going to try to recruit you. They want you as a student, and they're going to use whatever they have at their disposal to do that. So they're going to use certain metrics. So like I'm the top 10 if you look at this one thing. I'm a top 5% worldwide if you use this other metric. They're going to use a lot of different things to try to influence you, but you need to think about what is important to you and how you measure that. So a lot of league tables use things like student satisfaction, graduate earnings and stuff as part of how they assess what a university is like. You can also go and look at league tables specific to subjects as well. So this may be a really good university, but actually for the subject I want to study, it's rubbish. How do you what is more important to you? Please attend open days. Sign up to register open days. Lots of universities will have like visit days, which are kind of like half open days. So they're not as big and crazy as an open day. Because so it tends to be, there's 2 weekends in June when like everybody has their open day. So you won't be able to go to all 5 of your universities in June because it's because they want to show you the university when it's sunny and not when it's rainy. So they do them in June and September because nobody is going to like fall in love with the university when it's like icy on the floor and like it's really rainy and just horrible. So June is the time when you're going to start going to open days, but see if you can visit universities before. Read around your chosen subject. A good way of picking what subject you want to do is seeing who is a big person in this subject. Like, for example, if you're really into astrophysics, anyone? Great. So you know who Professor Brian Cox is, and you know he works at the University of Cambridge. And what that tells you is that the University of Cambridge hires people like Professor Brian Cox. When I was applying to university, okay, she's very controversial now, but I swear she was not this controversial when I was applying to university. But I was applying for sociology and gender studies, and Germaine Greer, who's a feminist theorist, was working at the University of Warwick at the time that I went to study there. So that told me 2 things. That told me, 1, that their sociology department is interested in gender studies, that the books that I've read are relevant to this university. And 2, I thought that there was a chance I'd bump into her. Okay, I never did, but I just like in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe today's the day I bump into Germaine Greer. I never did, but it could happen. You will know about the subject you want to study. You'll know who the main people in it are. You'll know if you want to study history, who the main historians that you find interesting are. And most of them will have teaching contracts with universities. So look that up. Find out where they studied. Find out if they work anywhere now. How can you maybe find out if they have similar interests to yours? Universities will also have things called research clusters. So if there's something very specific that you're interested in, for example, for my master's, I did it in education policy, and I'm really interested in educational inequality. And the university that I chose to do my master's at Bristol, had a research cluster in educational inequalities. That means that the staff that they hire, the way that university curricula are set is mostly by who's teaching on it. So the staff that they hire reflect the kind of what the interests of the teaching staff are. So remember that and look up about it. If you can attend a taster day or a short course or a summer school at a university, which you probably will, there are many free taster days, summer schools, etc., go to them. Studying at university level is vastly different to studying at school. Studying different subjects at different universities are vastly different as well. Studying English at one university is very different to English at another university. Maths is different. Don't ask me how, but apparently at some you do like multiplication and at others you do subtraction. No, that's a joke, but they're very different in what you study. So make sure that you understand how they're different. What is it about that subject that you like and what do you not like, and try to pick a course that reflects that. Obviously, you need to study really hard. The main way that you're going to be assessed for places at universities is by your grades. So make sure, as a sense of priority, that the grades that you're getting reflect who you are. Put the work in so that they reflect it. You're all here because you're all high achievers. You're all here because you've already demonstrated that you can do well academically. As I said, don't let that become your whole identity. But if you work hard, you know already that you are capable of achieving very good results. Finally, please have a plan for your A-level results day. Please know what you'll do if things go well, if things go way better than you thought they'd go, if things don't go as well. Have a list on the fridge of just the names and courses that you would consider otherwise. While you're doing your research, like, these didn't make my top 5, but I would also consider these couple universities if things don't go to plan. Their entry requirements are a bit below what I'm predicted to get, but I think I'd be happy there as well. Just have them somewhere on a Post-it note in your room. It doesn't matter. Make sure that you know in the back of your mind, if things go really well and really not well, what are you going to do?